Let's speak to the journalist Jakob Weizman. Great to talk to you. Jakob covers European politics, Politico. Welcome to France 24 tonight, Jakob. You've written a great piece about this. Your headline is very stark. It says, Kosovo's path towards NATO and the EU is at risk. Tell us why.
Well, thanks for having me, Gavin. I really appreciate it. At the moment, it seems that Kosovo is diving into more political instability because in order to get forward with its EU and Euro-Atlantic path, joining NATO, joining the European Union, even opening its application to join the European Union, which the EU has not done yet, that all rests on Kosovo being able to fix that political instability and being able to manage through its domestic politics in order to reach a compromise. But since the 2025 election in February, that has not happened yet. I mean, it's been a year and a half of a lot of instability, and the majority party, with Andosha and Albin Kurti, have been able to find compromises with the other parties. And of course, we have the split between Albin Kurti, the prime minister, and the former president, Vjosa Osmani, who spoke with me for my piece in Politico. But at the moment, I really feel that a lot of people are frustrated, as you said. Going to the polls for the third time, and it really does cost a lot of money. I mean, each election costs millions of euros to coordinate, and you have to keep going with the campaign. You have to do the same thing over and over again. And many people that I talk to in Pristina are also very unhappy about the fact that they have to go to the polls today to do the same thing over again.
Very interesting you say that, Jakob. Let's have a listen to some of the voters today, echoing some of those things you just mentioned. Let's take a listen. We think we can listen.
Elections are unnecessary. Political parties have shown a lot of immaturity, and we are not a rich enough country to have 2 elections every year. It would be better to spend the money on developing the country.
I don't expect to see any real change from these elections, because it's the same people with the same mentality. I think we'll have to go to the polls again. This should be stopped, and constitutional changes should be made.
Very interesting. You talked about speaking to Vjosa Osmani. Some might remember that she was, I think, the only woman on the Trump Board of Peace. She kind of took into reflective fame as a result of that recently, when she was onside lots of politicians. She's told. Just tell me a bit more about the conversation you had with her, because she says this is about political ego. That's the problem.
Yes, of course. I mean, she had accused the Kurti of trying to consolidate Kosovar institutions. I do think when you mentioned the Board of Peace, this was kind of, in a way, the last straw, because, I do believe from the sources I've heard that she had joined the Board of Peace without any formal discussions with Albin Kurti when she flew into Davos. And I think that might have been the last straw, in which the sense that he thought that she was overreaching her position as a president, because they don't really, of course, see eye to eye when it comes to the role of the president of Kosovo. But in this sense, the president of Kosovo is one of the most important channels in order to promote Kosovo's image abroad, because currently almost half of the world does not recognize Kosovo. And it's very important for the president to have this outreach to different countries at the same time when Serbia has a de-recognition campaign of the country, and 5 countries still continue to not recognize Kosovo, which has impacted its accession into the EU. Essentially, as Vjosa Osmani told us earlier last year, they've left the application for Kosovo to join the EU in the drawer. They applied in 2022, and it has not been opened. I was recently at the EU Western Balkan Summit in Tivat, Montenegro, and of course, Kosovo was not really mentioned, and all these plans of enlargement mostly focus around Albania and Montenegro, which at the moment I'm in Tirana covering the protests. So yes, I do believe that there is a way forward, but at the moment, as you said, and as the speakers, as the people that you interviewed were discussing, there's little hope at the moment.
If you were to look at, you've just said something there which I must pick up off of the back as well, because it's very interesting what's going on in Tirana right now, as well in Albania. Just to try to work out a way that for the deadlock to change, because listening to the voters just a moment ago, there is a sense that this is going to carry on, that we may have a result today that which nobody gets a majority. What has to change? Is it that Albin Kurti has to find someone who's voting the opposition to somehow convince them that he's a man to bring Kosovo to the future? Because he talks all the time about how he's improved the economy, its GDP. He talks about how it's a healthier country than before he took over.
I think it's important to rewind back to February 2025. The reason why, because this was not a staff election. This was, the end of the 4-year term, and then they went to elections again. This is essentially, it was success for Kosovo to be able to last through a 4-year term, because as far as I remember, that has only happened once, or maybe not even happened before. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then they were unable to find a coalition because the opposition would not work with them. The Serb minority parties would not work either. So they were unable to find the coalition to form the majority of 61 seats in the parliament of 120 seats. And then that led to the December elections, which they won with an overwhelming majority, more than the elections in 2021, more than the elections in 2025. But the problem is because you need 80 MPs of 120 present in the parliament in order to elect the president, which happened in March. And of course, the opposition parties were boycotting. So a lot of the politics in Kosovo at the moment is just very divisive. It's not about finding compromise. It's about attacking one another and trying to split voters. And in the December election, the opposition party had a lot of hope that they would be able to, outweigh the votes for Vetëvendosje, but that didn't happen. Vetëvendosje came in with a very strong win. And now what Kurti has been encouraging voters to that we need even stronger results so we can consolidate the power in the parliament, because he was unable to put forward his presidential candidate after not backing Vjosa for her re-election. So the problem is that it's very unlikely he will be able to get these 80 seats. But at the same time, if there's better votes from Vjosa's party, Democratic League of Kosovo, or the Democratic Party of Kosovo, if the opposition gets more votes, then Kurti will have no choice but to find a way to work with the opposition parties. But there's been recently accusations of passing subsidy schemes, social schemes, in order to what some critics are saying that is a way to influence voters. So a lot is at stake at the moment, but as you said, as many people have said, there's no real change to happen here. At least not in the sense that people are hopeful of that.
You mentioned Tirana. You looking at the protests in Albania. And for those watching Front 24 right now, will know. Go back a few days to the weekend. Last weekend, we had Ivanka Trump on a podcast about living life more authentically, and she was talking about discovering, quote, this private island a few years back with Jared Kushner, her husband, and that basically it was adorable. She had to do something with it to develop it in custom to what the island is. Now, this is the Sazan Island. It's also the lagoon close by on the coast of Albania, the Vjosa Nata coast. So I think I'm right in saying that the island is state-owned, but parts of the coast, there's lots of discrepancies, but it's private-owned. There's been construction going on parts of the coastline as well, which appears to be linked to this, and it's seen protests about basically luxury industry, the vagueness, the lack of transparency, and people for calling for the Prime Minister, Edi Rama, to go. What's it been like for you? What have you been seeing with these protests?
Really, this is nothing that I've seen before in my many years of covering the Western Balkans. And many of the people I spoke to at the protest yesterday say this is the most historical moment in Albanian history, in history of modern day Albania after the fall of communism. There is a lot of optimism at the moment that the protests will continue to go forward. After I will go again to cover the protest tonight and speak with more of the demonstrators. But Rama doesn't seem to want to budge. I spoke with him on Friday, and he reiterated that a lot of this is part of disinformation campaign involved from Iranian hackers, because they're trying to fuel this anti-Semitic conspiracy about Jared Kushner and the connection with Israel. And he says he seems to deny the amount of protesters that are really there. He says it's 2,000 at most, 8,000. It's really, I really see, I'm not able to count every single one of them, but I really do feel that there's a monumental change happening here. And the Commission, the European Commission, had also told me that they are monitoring very closely, because Albania is in the process of joining the EU and Rama wants to join by 2030. But this is at risk if they continue to move forward with this project. And it seems at the moment that Rama claims that there's no project. And it's
yes,
a lot
he claims
of,
there's no project,
Jakob,
but he talks about plans, doesn't he, rather than project, and he talks about the plans that it'll be all okay for the country.
Yes, I mean, Albania has had tripled in visitors in the last 10 years. They've really bet a lot on this tourism boom. And he has this vision for the country that he thinks that the people aren't really able to see, that tourism development can coexist with nature. But this isn't also just about this project specifically. It's about years and years of frustration with the current government, a lot of allegations over corruption. I mean, Rama's previous deputy minister had to resign earlier this year. One of the people that were primed to be his potential successors, the mayor of Tirana, Erion Velia, is currently sitting in prison amidst corruption allegations. And then even the former deputy prime minister before that is currently in exile in Switzerland. So there's a lot of frustration with the Albanian people over how he has handled the government in the past decade. He's been in power since 2013. And it seems that now they are demanding that now is the time for change. But Rama has insisted that he still has the support of most of the people, and that the numbers, as you've seen in the videos, are not as what they made it out to be. He shared with me AI-generated videos of crowds that were indeed AI-generated, but as you can see in these actual videos, there are quite a lot of people there, and it is expected for there to be even more people tonight.
That's fascinating. I think this is, like you say, this is now has a momentum of its own at this point. I hope we speak again on this, because I think I get a sense we'll be talking about this on The World this week on Friday as well. For now, thank you, Jakob. Great to talk to you, Jakob Weizman at Politico. Thank you and good luck.
Thanks, Gavin.